Hey all, this is Phoneybeetlemaniacxs back with you once again. This is going to be a response to one of my favourite users, Rictusgate, and his video, Jesus on Parole. Now, I'm going to respond to this video as it's going, so I've seen it once before, but I'm basically going to respond as it comes. Okay, so enjoy.
Greetings folks, your friendly neighborhood Rictusgate here. In this video I just want to talk a little about the substitutionary atonement of Jesus on the cross. So, I wrote this down a bit here so it'll help me keep things straight, since I tend to wander at times. Anyways, how many times have you heard the following analogy used to describe the substitutionary atonement of Christ on the cross? Now, God is a judge, beholden to the laws, of course. You are the accused, a sinner, standing before the judge, or a criminal.
Substitutional Atonement is a unique doctrine. Now again, it depends which sort of right you go to. The more reformed rights like C.S. Lewis, there's like Eusebius, people like that, they talk about Substitutional Atonement. There's even the writers of the King James Bible who talked about Substitutional Atonement. So I'm going to do, for the sake of argument, talk about the modern version. Now, we'll agree that that analogy is used of a judge and judgee because that's the quickest thing that people go to. I say it's not like that. It's more like you're in life and somebody gives you a helping hand to help you conduct yourself in a way. It's basically, Jesus is the modern, it's basically the spiritual equivalent of a social worker. He's helping you through life by showing you what to do and what not to do in certain situations. He's basically helping you out with today's life, because ourselves, we tend to get ourselves into trouble because we tend to be easily swayed and conveyed by evil. Now that's the very idea of substitutional atonement, that he has paid for that. He has paved the way for you to make the mistakes you may make, but you can atone for them. It is no way, a get out of jail free card, nor is it like him taking the bail for you. He's helping you with whatever problems you're going with. But again, we'll continue.
Criminal standing before the judge, awaiting judgment and sentencing. Now the judge finds you guilty and sentences you to death. Now in walks Jesus. He turns to the judge and says that he will stand in your stead. He will take this punishment himself, so you don't have to. Wow, what a guy, right? You walk out of the courthouse, innocent and free. But, and I think it's a big but, the analogy isn't finished yet, is it? Let me explain. God is the judge, you are you, and Jesus is Jesus. The punishment for your sinful nature is hell of some sort for eternity, correct? Whatever it is, separation, torture, whatever you want to say, it's some sort of bad thing. But Jesus offers himself in your stead for said punishment, to suffer on your behalf the punishment handed down by the judge.
The idea of any sort of separation from God was something that was around at the time. Now, if you understand what that actually means, that actually means that there had been a separation between God and the people that he was meant to be, because people had been turned away from him. They'd been torturing babies and steps and God knows what else, and they'd been tortured and sent into Babylon, and been taken over by pagan sources. A lot of those pagan influences were coming into the church. That's why the Pharisees were unfortunately trying to do that, because they thought that the way they could please the Romans was to introduce pagan influence in the church. Now, what Jesus and his friends were trying to do was negate that, because again they forced that to see that the fact that this had happened before in the scripture that we're talking about. Now, the problem we're having here is that Jesus didn't die so that people didn't have to go to hell or anything like that. It's so that we could be forgiven for the wrong deeds we do, and we could overcome them in real life. That in some way we could follow his example and see the way he acted, and maybe if we follow him in that sort of way, we can in ourselves be redeemed and cleansed of our ill deeds.
The punishment of some sort of hell for eternity, right? But what do we find actually happens when one completes or carries the analogy through to the end? What do we find? Well, Jesus gets paroled 3 days later. moves into a huge freaking mansion, never has to work again, and never wants for nothing. He never actually served the terms of the punishment, did he? The sentence was not carried out. He isn't, if Christian theology is to be accepted, suffering in some way eternally, is he?
Rictus, I love you, but I'm going to have to be harsh here. Which part of Christian theology says that? Again, you have to define what you mean by Christian theology. Catholic theology certainly doesn't say that. Orthodox theology don't. Most Protestant theologies don't say that. Again, they say that he redeemed mankind. And if you redeem... Let's say, for example, I'm sure that in your life, and this is going to be something that people can, especially with the interwebs, can... When you redeem... let's say, for example, you redeem a voucher. Is that thing... Can you use that thing in... No, it's got a date, it's got things... So he went there to redeem mankind. He went there to basically conquer evil, which he did. This is a very... I'm going to use the fundamentalist idea of him going to hell, which isn't what he really did. But again, what he did was conquer evil by dying, because death is the ultimate evil, blah blah blah. But again, that's a theological point for down the road that I need to get into. But I'm going to take this fundamentalist idea that occurs that Jesus went into hell to basically pay for our sins and then went out again. That idea is basically the same idea of when you redeem, let's say for example, an iTunes voucher or a Amazon voucher or a HMV voucher or whatever company you get a voucher. You can't use that voucher again. It's been redeemed. It's paid its value. It's done what it's supposed to have done. It doesn't need to stay wherever you are. It's done its deed for you. It doesn't need to stay in hell for you. The reason that we call it paying your sins is because you will commit some act of evil in your life. You will do something that is against the values that God has set up, but yet you can redeem yourself in some sort of way. There are different ways that you can do that, but ultimately you cannot not be redeemed, even if you don't believe, because again, as long as you have, because of the idea that I want to try and do a thing and you apologise and you feel and you apologise to the person, you've redeemed yourself in Jesus' eyes. You don't necessarily have to worship to him. That's the idea of redemption that a lot of people, especially in Reformed traditions, don't really get.
Because that was the punishment for us. Nope, he's in heaven, sitting at the right hand of God. Does that make any sense? So there's also the issue of gross injustice to the victim or victims of your crimes and sins. Now, I know Christians will say God is the only victim, which only shows me that they have a very skewed sense of morality. But the people you victimized were there when you walked out of the courthouse, fully exonerated of your crimes against them, and then they read in the news about Jesus getting paroled after 3 days. No one, in the end, was ever held accountable. Accountability doesn't...
How is somebody not accountable? Accountability is in the self. You are accountable to yourself, you're accountable to God, and you're accountable to the people you wrong. You can't just go through life and think that just praying to Jesus will wash you of all the wrong deeds you do. That is something that I don't really, that I think a lot of non-believers don't really get. That again, when you recant to Jesus, you've got to recant to the person you've wronged. You can't just think that I recant to Jesus and all my problems are fixed. It doesn't work that way. It works in the way that you have to be. Yes, you have to repent to Jesus. Yes, you have to repent to yourself, but you have to repent to the person you wronged. You can't just go around thinking that I can do what I want, but Jesus will forgive me for it. You have to be in yourself. Hold yourself to a higher standard, because you're basically working behind the example that Jesus has set. And if you falter from that example, you have to repent and apologise to the person you hurt. There is no getting out of jail free card here. There is no avoiding of responsibility. You have to be responsible for your actions. That's the whole point of substitutional atonement.
Even exist. So I have to question anyone who claims this is somehow an act of substitutionary atonement in the fullest sense of the term. I also have to question the ethics beyond the whole thing as well. I could respect the act of Jesus on the cross if he actually fulfilled the criteria for punishment fully. But he didn't. Night, folks.
Okay, so let's talk about the ethical side of this for a moment. Again, it's an ethical framework that, for example, because you're capable of such hate and such vitriol, that you needed this help to get you out of that. That's what he came for. He came to be an example to us all. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And the very idea of substitutional atonement is that, you know, he isn't there to, like, you know, just and this is what I don't like from some non-believers, is that they don't understand this very easy to understand concepts. That he'd not come around just to sit, so Christians could go around and say, "Oh, I'm so moral, blah blah blah." It doesn't work that way. He came to show us the right way to go around living, and the right way to be in our lives. And the fact is that he did not. The reason he died for us is so we didn't. Is to rip away what is evil, innately evil in us. I mean, like, for example, you know, there are some people where that thing still comes up, but the fact that we can be led into temptation, the fact that we can do evil things based upon the smallest things, the fact that we can do really, you know, horrible acts of violence against each other shows me anyway that, again, it is an ethically sound process that he came to die for, and I still believe that today. Okay, so again, the idea of substitutional atonement is that one of ethical purity, because you are now following in the footsteps of somebody who died for your well-being. It's basically somebody who basically, you know, jumps in front of a bullet for you, and I don't see that any less ethically wrong than somebody who jumps in front of a bullet for a president or for and yet we're nobody special, we're nobody perfect, but Jesus did it for us, and I think that makes him that very ethical in my personal point. But hey, that's my personal point of view. Hey, Rictus, I look forward to the response you do. This is Phoneybeetlemaniacxs, for Jesus make it true.